In the summer of 1991, the entire world would fall to its knees, shaken by a creature so massive and iconic that it would single-handedly reshape the landscape of Nickelodeon as we knew it. A scaly green dinosaur who never even spoke a single word, but was still bursting at the seams with character. Of course, we're talking about none other than Reptar. Having aired in over 76 countries across the world, Rugrats would become a household name in the 90s. At one point, they were practically the mascot of Nickelodeon. With that being said though, if the Rugrats were the mascot of Nickelodeon, then Reptar was the mascot within the mascot. He wasn't just the baby's favorite toy, he was an entire brand identity within this show. We would see Reptar posters, merch, cereal, movies, theme park rides. I mean, even Reptar on Ice, the musical. Whereas in the real world, Rugrats was a massive hit of a global franchise for Nickelodeon, inside the world of Rugrats, Reptar is the global franchise that everyone was obsessing over. Of course, by proxy, those of us watching the show would immediately be enamored by this big, lovable dinosaur. I mean, his OG toy design is without a doubt instantly iconic. Not to mention the purple variant, which is just absolute fire. Outside of that though, Reptar almost acted as a symbol for the baby's adventures. He makes their creative world seem gargantuous, all the while a lot of the times driving stories where the babies imagine themselves in epic situations. Behind this huge, vibrant, and viewer-appointed icon of the show hides another icon, however. One that, though she may be a lot smaller and less threatening, still defines the show's entire identity, yet in an astronomically different way than Reptar. She's not this larger-than-life, epic adventure-having prehistoric creature that won audiences over in the millions, but nevertheless, she's just as important, serving a role that feels a lot more personal and, ironically, rooted in stability. Of course, that would be none other than Cynthia.
Cynthia, she's a really cool dancer. Cynthia, boogie to the groove now.
Whereas Reptar is a large enough icon to blow the ceiling off the tallest building in the world, Cynthia, rather the opposite, shrinks you down to the size of her little coffee shop playset on Angelica's bedroom floor. She may look absolutely wild, but even considering that, she serves to be Angelica's emotional anchor and a mirror of the most chaotic parts of her personality. She may not have been as massive of a cultural icon as Reptar was, but she makes up for that with how deeply she represents the heart of the show's identity. Where Reptar is the icon showcasing the massive world of the Rugrats' imagination and how huge of a phenomenon that it would become, Cynthia proves to showcase the smallest details of personality, comfort, and the emotional core of what makes this show so special. And that is why today, on our nostalgic walk down memory lane, we're checking out 2 episodes of Rugrats that absolutely embody the soul of these 2 iconic characters, highlighting just how massively different they are, but at the same time, how they prove to define the same exact heart of the show, but for completely different reasons. We're also going to peel back some layers as far as why Reptar would ultimately end up being the fan favorite, with some input from you guys given in a poll where Reptar just pummeled Cynthia by far. And well, make sure to subscribe or else you will become a pickle on Bubble Bass's next Krabby Patty. Newsflash, it's not gonna be a comfortable existence, my friend. To start things off, we're going to peel back the many layers of Reptar. Take the shiny wrapper off of the Reptar bar, so to speak, revealing that sweet, creamy chocolate underneath, housing the soft, delicate, delicious caramel inside. This dinosaur is practically a celebrity in this show, loved by all of his dedicated fans who are desperate to consume as much Reptar content as they possibly can. Furthermore, the impact that he had on the babies is absolutely life-altering. That's something that we saw Chucky expand upon firsthand in the video I recently made about the All Grown Up episode where the construction crew digs an old Reptar toy out of Tommy's yard. Oddly enough, this episode of All Grown Up would kind of serve to be the true finale to the original Rugrats, so to speak, paying tribute to the iconic dinosaur that once held audiences captive and giving us one final taste of the original Rugrats. I'll be sure to link that video at the end screen, as I honestly can't think of a more perfect video to follow this one up with. However, as far as revisiting the legacy that Reptar built is concerned, there's one episode that comes to mind which, in every way possible, encapsulates just how perfectly that Reptar embodied the adventurous spirit and imaginative nature of the babies and this show in general. That would be none other than the masterpiece that is the Season 3 episode Reptar 2010. This episode starts out 50,000 years ago in an age where dinosaurs rule the world, the largest and most dominant of which was the Tyrannosaurus Rex. All of a sudden, for seemingly no reason at all though, one of these giant and magnificent creatures was hurled through the space-time continuum and sent forward to a futuristic Earth in the faraway and mysterious year of 2010. Thus setting up the premise for the epic movie known as Reptar 2010. We see the Rugrats crew gathered around the TV with Grandpa Lou as they sit completely enamored by this movie. On screen, we see Reptar stuck in a block of ice inside the lab of a government scientist who says that he's been ironically frozen in the Earth's core for 50,000 years.
These nuclear containment rings are the strongest force field known to man. Good sweet Mike! It can't be! It just can't be!
As the movie continues, Grandpa Lou falls asleep, as you'd expect. The babies keep watching the movie as things progress, and eventually it gets to a point where the scientist is about to blast Reptar with an experimental death ray, which might just destroy the universe along with it. Right at the climax, when he hits the button though, the film in the tape just shreds to bits and the movie comes to a grinding halt.
Oh, phooey! Sorry, Sprats, I guess we're not gonna get to see what happens to old Reptar. At least not tonight. Stew your card-flap gradient machine and another tape!
Oh no, we'll never know what happened to Reptar. It's not fair. I bet I know what happened to him. You do?
Just like that, Chucky starts telling his tale of what happens to Reptar next. He claims that Reptar likely didn't want to get into any more trouble, so he ran away from the laser beam that they tried to blast him with, looking for a good hiding spot. Next thing you know, we cut to this imaginary movie where we see Reptar sporting a head of red hair, glasses, and a pair of shorts just like Chucky's.
Oh, the statue of Lizardy sure looks big close up.
Yeah, and green too.
The statue of Lizardy?
Curses! Don't worry, Mr. President. We'll find that pesky dinosaur.
As night falls, Reptar Chucky panics, finding himself cornered on a bridge. The scientist tries to blast him with the laser beams as he runs away in tears, but just then, Phil interrupts Chucky's story, saying that Reptar is way too brave, and that he would never run away scared from something like that. And just like that, we cut to Phil's telling of the story, as we see Reptar now sporting a haircut and outfit identical to his. Phil Reptar goes around doing whatever he wants, like rolling in nasty sewage, eating garbage, and treating actual vehicles as toys. However, when he gets his hands on the car for the futuristic light-speed monorail system, out of nowhere, a Reptar that looks identical to Lillian comes up to fight him for it.
Hey, that's my bus! Aw, you babies don't know anything. Reptar wouldn't fight over a dumb bus. He's got better things to do.
Just like that, we see Reptar in a dress with blonde pigtails as he rips up the bank, shakes all the money out, and attacks the shit out of King Kong, taking the government scientists captive along the way.
Please don't hurt us, Miss Reptar Lady Ma'am, sir.
Maybe I will, and maybe I won't. It all depends on whether you two pipsqueaks do exactly what I say.
Anything.
Anything? Prehistory was nothing like this.
At that, Tommy starts to question why Reptar would be out lazing around by a pool when he could be off having adventures like getting cookies and playing in the sandbox. Next thing you know, we're diving into his story, seeing Reptar sporting a diaper, blue t-shirt, and little wisps of hair on his head.
Come here, Reptar.
Now play nicely, Reptar, while Dr. Ventnor and I clean up this yucky mess.
As Reptar Tommy walks, he smells cookies from a nearby cookie factory. He goes right up to it, ripping the building in half and trying to get some of the cookies. Unfortunately though, every cookie just seems like a crumb when you're that massive. He sits there sad with his head held low when all of a sudden, he looks up and sees the moon, realizing that it looks just like a big cookie in the sky. He jumps up a few times, reaching as far as he can, but he sadly ends up unsuccessful.
Will I help you? That'll do it. Well, here goes. Wait a minute, you guys. I don't think we're supposed to be doing this. Oh, Choktar, don't be such a dinosaur.
Reptar Tommy climbs the massive tower of skyscrapers, grabbing the moon out of the sky before tumbling all the way down to the ground below. He takes a big old bite out of it, but then, out of nowhere, Reptar Angelica shows up to steal his cookie from him.
Look what I got! Look what I got! Hey, Reptilica, give it back!
Hey, Sprouts, gather round. Managed to fix the video with some tape. It's amazing what you can do with a little ingenuity and elbow grease.
Grandpa Lou puts the tape into the VCR, saying that they lost a couple minutes of the middle of the film, and just like that, we cut back to the end of the movie where the scientist and president now have Reptar in a rocket, sadly telling him that they'll never forget him as they blast him off into space. Okay, so right out the gate, I need to acknowledge one massive thought that's looming over me like a storm cloud that just will not clear up until I recognize its existence. Is it not absolutely crazy that this movie, which is supposed to portray the faraway distant future with flying cars and stuff, takes place in the year 2010? Like, there are literal almost 16-year-old teenagers walking the earth right now that were born in the year 2010. It's crazy too, because this one aired in 1993, which means that the movie Reptar 2010 was portraying events that were supposed to be 17 years in the future, right? Well, look at it this way. Now that it's almost the year 2026, the year 2010 might as well have been 17 years ago at this point. The year that this episode is portraying is nearly as far behind us as it was ahead of us when this one originally aired, which, as someone born in 1994 who was a teenager in 2010, is just mind-blowing. Even further than that, it's insane to look at how fast that time flies and how seemingly backward that we've gone as a society. Like, instead of the futuristic world with flying cars that we saw here, we live in a world with cybertrucks and generative AI that's literally going to take over humanity as we know it. To be honest, as beautiful as this episode is, it's also kind of heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because it shows how hopeful that we as a society used to be about the future. People used to dream about light-speed monorails that could take you across the country in mere hours, or the sequel to the Xbox being some crazy futuristic-looking technology. But like, when the future finally came around, we got millennial gray and the boring, plain, flat box that is the Xbox Series X. And I mean, when people think about the future nowadays, it just feels different. Honestly, sometimes I wonder if that's why I love nostalgia so much, because in my opinion, the past kind of looks a lot brighter than the future does sometimes. But even then, that just amplifies how much Reptar was a symbol of hope. He was a tried and true testament that the sky was the limit and that anything was possible. Even freezing inside of a block of ice deep inside the depths of the Earth's molten outer core and solid iron-nickel alloy inner core. The true beauty here is that it approaches Reptar as a mascot that showcases the baby's open-mindedness and how each of them brings something different to the table that benefits their adventures. I'm sure we can all agree that having this episode explore every character's original Reptar idea was an absolutely awesome avenue to adventure in this episode. As astronomically amazing as all of their individual stories were though, the one that truly emphasizes the point to be made is the story of Rep Tommy. While all the other babies were imagining Reptar taking what he wants or searching for or enjoying complete and utter freedom, Tommy imagines Reptar going on regular, everyday adventures in the name of nothing but purely chasing the things that he feels like chasing. The fact that they saved Tommy's story for last genuinely feels like it was intentionally done to drive the point home here. Reptar is symbolic of chasing your dreams, going on adventures, and imagining beyond your wildest comprehension. One truly captivating aspect of this one, too, is the fact that this sentiment isn't just portrayed in the story. It comes across in the art style of literally everything here. Reptar himself, the futuristic cityscape and devices, and of course that gorgeous and captivating pencil-drawn intro sequence. This moment really just set the scene perfectly and came across as flawless artistry. It's just so perfectly imperfect. It's the kind of hand-drawn sequence that inspires artists of every skill level to believe that anything their mind can dream up can come out of that pencil and onto the canvas. On top of that too, not only the intro, but the ending is also just chock full of symbolism. It's that pure, joyous, childlike wonder just perfectly wrapped up in an ending sequence. The moment that they look outside and see the moon having a bite out of it and Reptar's spaceship flying by, it invokes those pure feelings of early childhood and figuring out the world, being left questioning reality. Wondering if your friend really was a dinosaur who took a massive bite out of the moon, because at that age, imagination genuinely feels so real that it truly feels like anything could be possible. And the fact that the babies got to explore that mindset through the eyes of Reptar, their all-time favorite toy, really does feel like full circle childlike innocence and adventurous spirit. In all reality, it's genuinely no surprise that Reptar would almost instantly become the brand mascot for Rugrats in the public eye. We had characters like Cynthia, Spike, or even just the babies themselves that would have made perfect mascots to represent the show. However, Reptar would be the one that by far would be chosen by viewers and recognized as the overall mascot of Rugrats. Everything about him just resonated perfectly with the fans. His design, his demeanor, his seemingly endless merch line in the Rugrats universe. Honestly, in every sense, Reptar serves as a monolith among Nicktoons. The golden statue of an age-old mascot who awkwardly dinosaur walked so that someday in the distant year of 1999, SpongeBob could frolic with glee and fill his shoes for the next 30 years. In all seriousness though, he really serves as an idol that metaphorically symbolizes every crazy adventure that these babies have been on over the years. He's a testament to the childhood belief that literally anything and everything is possible. And as a result, he would go down in history as the overall external icon of the show in a sense. The one that nearly every person who had seen the show, fan or not, would come to associate with not only Rugrats, but early Nickelodeon as a whole. In every sense though, if Reptar is the external icon, then without a doubt, Cynthia is the internal icon in a way, where Reptar serves as an emotional core, representing not only Angelica's safe space, but furthermore, a sense of clinging on to childhood in general. In a way, kind of the metaphorical icon for the emotional aspects of this show. With that being said, the first episode that comes to mind when I consider the impact that Cynthia had on Rugrats and the role that she plays as an emotional icon would without a doubt be none other than the Season 2 episode, The 7 Voyages of Cynthia. As this episode starts out, we see cascading whitewater rapids flowing through a rocky river. However, as we get a look at the bigger picture, we come to realize this isn't a river at all, but instead just a little stream of water that Tommy and Chucky are playing in while Stu and Drew clean a boat nearby.
Boy, I wish we had a boat. Good idea, Chucky. Let's go get one. Wait a second. I never said... Now all we need is a captain for it. But Tommy... Now, where are we going to get a captain? This is all happening so fast. Come on.
We cut over to Angelica playing with Cynthia among a plethora of different Cynthia accessories. After brushing Cynthia's wisps of hair, she pulls out a pair of binoculars to search for a husband for her, ultimately deciding on Spike, oddly enough, instead of another toy. Next thing you know, we see Cynthia dressed up in a wedding gown standing at the official Cynthia wedding altar as Angelica has Spike holding some flowers in his mouth sitting nearby.
Do you, Cynthia, take this dog to be your waffle wedding husband? And do you, Spike? Hey, come back! I'm not finished! All right, if you don't want to play wedding, then go away! And don't come back, you stinky old dog!
While Angelica is off being a jerk to Spike, Tommy and Chucky walk up and they stumble upon Cynthia just laying on the ground in her wedding gown. Without much thought, Tommy picks her up, deeming her the perfect captain, and even though Chucky voices some apprehension, the two ultimately decide to go through with it. At first, they have an absolute blast, watching Cynthia ride the boat like a champion. As she races down the rapids, however, her boat glides right through the bars at the end of Angelica's driveway and down the street, proceeding to go down into the sewer in a scene that looks like it was plucked right out of Stephen King's It. Just then, this happens.
Cynthia, she's gone!
Now, come on, Muffin, calm down.
Calm down!
Angelica proceeds to sob and cry her eyes out as her dad offers to buy her a new Cynthia doll at the store. That seems to stop the sobbing, thankfully. However, Angelica is completely awestruck at the idea of replacing the Cynthia doll that she's been confiding all of her closest thoughts in for the last few years. She goes stone cold, crying silent tears as she says that Cynthia is her best friend and she can't imagine just getting a new one. Just like that though, we cut to Cynthia floating down the sewer pipe on her little boat. Eventually, the pipe comes to an end and she plunges down a little waterfall, left floating in a river that eventually lets out to an even bigger river. One that, interestingly enough, resembles the one from the beginning, just actual life-sized and massive. As that river leads Cynthia to an even bigger waterfall, we cut back to Drew's house where Spike is wandering outside the fence, getting into the trash. As Angelica frantically looks around for her best friend, Tommy is racked with guilt, telling Chucky that they have to come clean to her about it. Even though Chucky fears her wrath, Tommy insists that they need to own up to their mistake, and at that, the two approach Angelica, saying that they need to talk to her about Cynthia.
Do you know where she is? Cause if I find out who took her, I'll mash him and crush him and smash him into a million zillion blobs of applesauce! Now, what did you want to tell me? Nothing.
As that's happening, we see Cynthia still on her adventure, going down streams, through flowing outlets of very peculiar colored liquids, and eventually getting straight up swallowed whole by a fish. Back at Angelica's house though, Tommy and Chucky struggle with whether or not they should tell her the truth about Cynthia, torn between fear over her threats and guilt over her full-blown putting on a funeral for her missing friend.
Babies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to say goodbye to our bestest friend in the world, Cynthia. She's gone now. Who knows where? Does she have her springtime Cynthia fashion line? Does she have her matching accessories? At least we know this. She's gone to a better place.
We watch Cynthia flowing through the water that leads through the city dump, just covered in muck and filth, as nearby, a truck dumps out a load of trash containing none other than our good pal Spike. He happily runs through the dump, enjoying the smells, when all of a sudden he catches a glimpse of Cynthia in the water. At the sight of her, we see the world from his point of view as he remembers how Angelica treated him.
Gobble-gibble-goo, waffle-weeble husband. What a webby warning! Don't dump up, don't dicky dog!
As Spike walks away, not wanting to help Angelica because she was so rude, he remembers seeing Tommy earlier that day and how sweet that he was to him. At that, likely not wanting Angelica to get mad at Tommy without her doll, Spike grabs her and runs off into the distance. Just then, we cut back to Angelica's house while Chucky and Tommy are both sobbing their eyes out listening to Angelica recount her most precious memories with Cynthia from over the years.
We did it! It's our fault! Did what? We lost her! In our boat! We were playing in the river and needed a captain and then Tommy said, why not use Angelica's doll? Because we only need it for just a little bit. And then the water was really fast. And we were way too far. At first it was really deep. But then it went out in the road. And down a hole and we lost Cynthia!
As they both beg for Angelica's forgiveness, she pushes them in anger, approaching them with her fists clenched, prepared to attack. Right at the last second though, before she can get to them, Spike comes through the fence and saves the day, carrying Cynthia in his mouth. Angelica is so happy to see her that she goes to praise Spike. However, in the wake of her abusing him, he runs away from her in disgust, instead just happy to be reunited with Tommy. Just then though, Stu catches a whiff of Spike and picks him up.
Let's get you a bath.
Ew, yuck, dog germs! Oh, Cynthia, now I won't be able to do a thing with your hair.
Hey, Stu, you missed a spot. Drew, I know how to wash my own dog. Thank you.
Just offering a little friendly advice.
Well, I got some advice for you, pal.
Oh, yeah? Well, let me alert the media. You have advice that's gonna be...
So this episode is one that does something really interesting right from the get-go that is easily overlooked, but once you realize it, it establishes the entire basis of why Cynthia is such an integral part of the Rugrats universe. From the first seconds of this episode, this one establishes a micro perspective. Cynthia isn't even involved at this point, but still, it starts with a scene that focuses on a small subject, zooming out to reveal that given the different perspective, things aren't at all what they seem. It isn't a massive cascading river carrying a log. It's a tiny stream of water coming from Stu and Drew washing the boat, and Tommy and Chucky are just completely enthralled by it. It's interesting to consider just how much this highlights the juxtaposition between Cynthia and Reptar. It circles right back to him being the larger-than-life, big dream icon. Meanwhile, Cynthia is more of a shrunken, down-to-earth, grounded, emotional core. I mean, the beginning of Reptar 2010 literally started with a large, wide, hand-drawn prehistoric scene that's sole purpose was purely to emphasize just how gigantic that the dinosaurs were, especially Reptar being a Tyrannosaurus Rex. This episode, on the other hand, however, it starts out with nearly the exact opposite. It starts with a scene that emphasizes the power of perspective when applied creatively in a small space. It starts with a close, tight shot of what seems to be a river. But even outside of that small, tight shot itself, we see that the scene is even smaller than we were led to believe. It's incredibly subtle, and it comes across as a very realistic artistic way for them to hone in on and convey these points early on. Reptar's episodes tend to start out larger than life, and they stay just as large throughout, especially in an imaginary, adventurous aspect. Meanwhile, Cynthia's episodes will shrink you down to her size, show off how different the world is from her perspective, and a lot of times portray a certain level of emotion, considering how much Angelica has invested in her. More than anything, it's genuinely intriguing to take in the fact that these two mascots are portraying the same exact sense of imagination, albeit in different forms and from different points of view. One massive and one rather minuscule in comparison, both in size and popularity. Furthermore, I also want to point out that it also says a lot that Cynthia proves to show a different, almost more textile kind of creativity. It's almost hard to put into words, but like where Reptar inspires pure imagination, Cynthia inspires more of a hands-on kind of creativity. Like in that moment where we saw Tommy use a piece of broken garden fencing and a labeling stake to make a little boat for them to play with. Or the fact that Angelica has literally every scenario you could possibly imagine in the form of a playset ready to act out with Cynthia. I mean, sure, the boat and the playsets may seem tiny and not like much at first glance. However, the moment that Cynthia is on that wedding altar, or captaining that boat as it flies down the rapids, the whole scene just turns massive. What really is a simple piece of plastic or a piece of wood with a stake in it turns into so much more because of the sense of tactile imagination at play. It's not just walking through the house, knocking things over, and pretending to be a dinosaur destroying the city. It's genuinely making something small to enact something much bigger in an extremely imaginative way. At the core of it all, that's really what makes this one such a captivating episode, and that truly defines what makes Cynthia such an iconic mascot in a way. She's a small symbol for something much bigger. Considering both Cynthia and Reptar, however, it's interesting to ponder that what really defines the mascots of this cartoon especially is the fact that they're a franchise within a franchise. I mean, Reptar landed so well because not only was he interesting in general, but there was also Reptar everything. Cereal, candy bars, movies, musicals, you name it, Reptar was on it. However, as it pertains to Cynthia, she dominated in a similar yet different way. Cynthia had nearly every accessory imaginable, from a coffee shop to a literal wedding playset. There were TV specials, even a CD full of just god-awful dance music. Like, within the universe of Rugrats, Cynthia may have been just as big of a cultural icon as Reptar. However, the truth is, she was one that really only resonated with Angelica. Meanwhile, Reptar resonated with literally everyone, including Angelica. I guess at the core of it, that's kind of what sets the two apart. Who we associate them with. Reptar, to be honest, isn't really directly associated with anyone. I guess of anybody, maybe Tommy, but everyone in this show enjoys him to some degree, so it's hard to directly relate Reptar to him specifically. Reptar is just Reptar. He's his own independent dinosaur, cherished by all. However, Cynthia, on the other hand, Cynthia is 100% of the time, 10 times out of 10, always associated with Angelica. And let's just be honest, Angelica is a massive jerk. Especially in the original Rugrats. I mean, we straight up watched her shove a dog out of anger simply because he wouldn't stay where she tried to tell him to. It's unfortunate because Cynthia could literally be the coolest toy ever, but since she's so directly correlated with such a massive downer jerk of a character, she's immediately associated with negative feelings by proxy. Cynthia didn't do anything really. It's just the fact that Angelica is so attached to her. The thing is though, even though Cynthia isn't as highly regarded in a lot of fans' eyes, she's still completely integral to the show, especially as far as Angelica's stability is concerned. Like, Reptar isn't the glue holding the universe together by any means. The Reptar 2010 breaks and the whole entire world doesn't implode. As a matter of fact, that inciting incident led to the creativity that the babies imagined up to kill the time as they waited for the tape to be fixed. However, when Cynthia went missing, the entire world fell apart for Angelica, simply because Cynthia is the one thing that genuinely keeps her grounded and okay. She's the one singular object on this planet that Angelica feels comfortable expressing all of her emotions to, and to have that ripped away from her was like the one singular tipping point that led to everybody around her feeling the effects of that loss as well. At the end of it all though, it comes down to this. Reptar wholeheartedly represents the wild, adventurous, risk-taking side of life. Meanwhile, Cynthia represents the grounded and reality-based comfort zone. Reptar thrives in new areas and situations. Meanwhile, the second Cynthia is away from her designated salon and wedding altar sets, Angelica melts down. Like, even in the first 2 seconds of realizing that Cynthia was gone, Angelica was full-blown losing it. She could have been all of 6 feet away in the yard, and even though Angelica hadn't taken the time to even glance that direction, she's already hyperventilating and assuming that Cynthia is gone for good. In that sense, it's like Cynthia represents something truly sacred being protected at all costs. Whereas Reptar represents something that's still sacred, yet is intended to climb the highest imaginary mountains, tear down the tallest block tower buildings, and get a little dirty and scuffed up along the way. It's a point that truly is doubled down upon in All Grown Up across a few different episodes, in the way that Cynthia ends up in nearly the same condition, having been put away in Angelica's room for safekeeping all this time. Meanwhile, in Reptar's case, he would end up being left behind mid-adventure and possibly buried by Spike, left frozen in time as a fossil of adventures past. Outside of the meaning that was intended by the show and my personal interpretation of the possible symbolism, there's an even bigger factor that decides the overall iconic nature of these characters. Something that's far greater than the show itself, or even some guy behind a microphone on the internet. That would be the fandom. The thousands of people who watched this show and grew up with it being a part of their childhood. As of the time of me recording this, 7 days ago I posted a poll to my community here on YouTube. It was a rather simple question. Which of these two icons represents Rugrats better in your opinion? Reptar or Cynthia? Of the more than 4,300 people who responded to that poll, a whopping 78% chose Reptar over Cynthia. It was a massive landslide victory for Reptar, and given the poll was among a bunch of 90s Nick fans, it's safe to say it's relatively accurate to the broader picture. Reptar is the clear winner of the two. But what really sets them apart? Why is Reptar so much more beloved? Of course, I could regurgitate the list of points I've already made so far in the name of dramatic narrative redundancy in true YouTuber fashion, but the only true way to show the facts is to show them straight from the horse's mouth. And considering I have a whole slew of comments from the fanbase on this poll, I figured there'd be no better way to figure out why the fanbase feels the way that they do than to just pass the mic over to you guys to share some opinions. Really quick, let this serve as a PSA though. Anytime you scroll past a Dusk Till Sean poll on YouTube, you never know. You might just have your glorious, thoughtful insight included in a video. I might not even tell you. Heck, I might not even know when I post that poll that it's gonna be used for an upcoming video, as was the case here. But hey, just saying, don't be shy. Leave a comment, whether it be a community post or a video. I scroll through the comments all the time, and honestly, you guys are chock full of incredible insight, and oftentimes angles that I may not have even considered. First up, we have Sakurashai8492, who had one of the most upvoted comments.
Reptar played a very big part of Rugrats lore. The first and second movie revolved around Reptar in some way.
You know, I think that's a super valid point, and I completely agree. That's a huge thing that All Grown Up emphasized in the episode where they find Reptar buried in the yard. Chucky references how it was because of Reptar that they all went to Paris, and he was the reason that he ended up getting a mom and a sister after his father being a single dad for nearly as long as he could remember. I totally agree, my friend. You hit the nail right on the head. Next up, we have Tay Perks, who had a comment just as upvoted as the last one, tying for top comment. She said,
Cynthia, she's a really cool dancer.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, not much more needs to be said. That song was such an earworm that it's like an inescapable plague. I don't know if you voted for Cynthia or not, but I feel like so many of us immediately think of that song when we see Cynthia. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, well, that's up to opinion. But yeah, girl, I love this comment. It sums up Cynthia's side of things pretty well, to be honest.
Shake it, you're so fantastic. Just don't break it, you're only made of plastic. Cynthia, she's a really cool dancer. Cynthia, get to the groove now.
Next up, we are passing the mic to Dawn Lush, who said,
Personally, I chose Cynthia because Reptar is a cool dino that could belong to any other cartoon. but that dead inside look is exclusive to Cynthia and this show.
So, Dawn, I'm gonna be brutally honest with you, my friend. I really appreciate you saying that, so I didn't have to. When I approach my scripts for my videos, I keep like this running list of points that I want to circle back to in a place that flows well for the video, right? And this entire time, I've had this point about Cynthia looking straight up lifeless and dead inside while she's being dragged around by Angelica, and it's been looming over me as I'm kind of struggling with where to bring it up. And, well, you opened the door, my friend, so if you insist, thank you very much. I genuinely feel like in a huge way, design is what really sets these two apart. You put it a little different than I would have as far as Reptar goes, if I'm being honest. I think he looked unique to Rugrats in a fantastic way. He was pretty distinct, and the line work and color scheme in his character design just truly has that Rugrats feel to it. However, Cynthia, on the other hand, she had part of her hair shaved nearly 3 decades before it was trendy. And those eyes, the lifeless, dead eyes, the blank stare, combined with that just straight emotionless mouth, the way that her hair just stands straight up too. Honestly, Cynthia's character design really is just kind of creepy. It's honestly inevitable that this would cause hiccups in her ability to become the biggest mascot of the show. The fact that a lot of kids were likely freaked out a bit by Cynthia would be a huge deciding factor as to why she could never really fill the kind of role that Reptar was able to fill. Passing the talking stick right along, next up I have a comment from The Missing Kangaroo.
When I think of Rugrats iconography, I immediately think of Reptar.
To be honest, same. I think Reptar. I think of this very specific ball. In a way, I also think of Tommy's screwdriver also. But regardless, you get what I mean. When people think of Rugrats and they imagine the art style, the adventures, the imagination of it all, Reptar comes to mind without a doubt. Next up, we have Eminon B9Y.
Dinosaur, dinosaur, ancient enemy of man. You will pay for your destructive tendencies. You will pay for our travail.
From Reptar on Ice. You don't get a musical on ice without being a legend.
Frankly, I think you make an incredibly solid point. Like, sure, SpongeBob got a musical, but there still has yet to be SpongeBob on Ice. Reptar did it though. Sure, it wasn't in real life, but regardless, the point still stands. Reptar was a massive icon and practically the mascot of Nickelodeon before their current mascot came around. Reptar on Ice definitely proves his legendary status without a doubt. And lastly, we have a comment from Spudbrains.
I really love Reptar, but also I think Cynthia might be more iconic, and I think she's easily recognizable with that crazy look. Though I'm a bit biased because, as a fan of virtual pets, I'm a fan of the special edition that Reptar has.
Now, this comment is absolutely great because it perfectly highlights the duality of this topic. I mean, we've had multiple comments so far saying that Cynthia has the more recognizable look of the two, which I kind of agree with. She's more distinct, for better or for worse. But the thing is, it can't solely be about looks. It goes deeper than that. These two genuinely serve two different unique symbolic roles, and when we consider the big picture at play here, there's genuinely a lot more to be said. But I will agree with your sentiment regardless, and even more so, I agree with the point about Reptar's special edition variant. I'm telling you guys, that purple variant goes way too hard. Purple Reptar is an entire vibe. It almost feels like a completely different character serving a different personality, even though it's just a purple color palette swap. At the end of it all though, every argument as it pertains to Cynthia seems to, a lot of the times, stem from her looks. she looks weird and makes some people feel uncomfortable because of her odd character design. I'm sure we can all agree that honestly shows a testament to the importance of character design in a cartoon. It can make or break a mascot in all reality. For me personally though, I try my best to consider not only the design, but also the multiple pieces of media that we've seen from these characters. I mean, the 7 Voyages of Cynthia is an all-time classic episode with such a great premise. Reptar 2010 is absolutely the same. But the thing is, there aren't very many iconic Cynthia-centered episodes. At least, not ones that easily come to mind. Reptar, on the other hand, however, the iconic episodes are plentiful. At the movies, the ice show, at the Renaissance Fair, at the toy store, and even simply at the grocery store. You name it, and odds are, we've seen Reptar involved in a story there in some way. And sure, Cynthia may have been there along the way in most of those adventures in Angelica's arms, but she oftentimes didn't play a huge role in the story like Reptar inevitably would. Another part that I would consider to be a truly amazing example of this in a different type of media that I can't help but bring up is the fact that in the best Rugrats video game, the PS1 hit Rugrats: The Search for Reptar, 2 of the most iconic levels were about these characters. The 7 Voyages of Cynthia level, where you play as Spike going on the hunt for Cynthia, dude. Oh man, such a gem of a level. Just legendary. I will never forget those PS1 graphic sewers. From there though, in that same game, once you play through all of these levels, the ending of the game is you actually getting to play as Reptar and destroying the city as you make your way to his grand finale. It was an amazing video game, but these 2 moments were definitely iconic highlights of the game. One of which was obviously more of a grand spectacle than the other, being saved for endgame content, but still, that doesn't squash the long-lasting effect that both of them had on both the show and gamers alike. As all of the dominoes fall, sure, Reptar may have been recognized as the true iconic mascot of Rugrats, but the reality of this show is that it's so iconic in and of itself that almost every character is a mascot. Even people who had no idea who Stu Pickles is or what role he played in this show could be shown a picture of him, and odds are, at minimum, bare low bar level minimum, they'll be able to identify him as at least that dude from Rugrats. It's like how if you were to show anybody a picture of Ryan Gosling, they'd instantly know, oh yeah, that's the baby goose that starred in The Notebook. All of these characters are massive in their own right. However, it can't be denied that recognizing the symbolism behind specific ones really does make some land harder than others. And in a way, they both funnel down to the same level of importance. One that would see them both going down in history as true icons of the Rugrats, no matter which of the 2 is your favorite. Now, if there were anything else that I want to cover as we work toward the conclusion here, it would be my own personal thoughts. Because, sure, a poll among thousands of viewers is absolutely the best indicator of mass opinion, but that doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to put in my own personal, completely invaluable 2 cents. Honestly, I kind of have a hard time choosing which one of these 2 I'd see as more iconic. I'm prone to lean more toward Reptar by default because ever since I was a kid, Reptar was one of my all-time favorite cartoon mascots. However, there really is just something so unique about Cynthia. And not just in the whole dead inside look and crazy fucked up hair, but more in the sense of what she represents. If you've followed my channel for the past 5 years now, you'd know that I'm a sucker for an emotional soft spot, especially in the form of something long cherished. Don't get me wrong, Reptar is an emotional soft spot in a ton of ways, and he's absolutely cherished by all. But in being cherished by all, there wasn't one person who was designated to hold on to his legacy and keep him safe. Meanwhile, as far as Cynthia goes, that duty was purely on the shoulders of Angelica. In a way, it makes Cynthia feel a bit more personal because we all have at some point had that one item that we ourselves hold so close and dear. One that represents an integral and defining part of our lives, be it from our childhood or onward. I guess for me, what it really comes down to, all in all, is the fact that, in my opinion, Cynthia and Reptar are both equal mascots in their own individual way, and their popularity is neither here nor there, ironically enough, being that I'm the one presenting the topic. If I had to pick one though, Reptar for sure. But I have to ask, what do you guys think? Did this video change the way that you look at these two mascots? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love seeing your guys' feedback. Really quick, I want to give a huge shout out to my friends in the True 90s Kids tier on Patreon and YouTube memberships. You all are the absolute best, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate every single one of you. Also, special shout out to the one and only member of the Sean's Best Friend tier on YouTube memberships, FF. Thank you so much for your generous donation to my creative dreams, friend. You're the absolute best, and I genuinely appreciate you. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and stick around for another nostalgic walk down memory lane. Might I recommend that video about all grown up in the episode where Reptar is unearthed? It's on screen right now, on the left side, and you should absolutely click it and watch it. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Peace.